Do you know that there were liberals and journalists whose feelings were hurt yesterday because Donald Trump made that statement? So I'm serious. I couldn't make that up if I wanted to. He said, I don't want a poor person in charge of the economy. You know what lesson Donald Trump has learned there? You know who could never be in charge of our economy in the United States? The state of Illinois. Because they have absolutely blown it. They've wasted billions of taxpayer dollars, spent far more than they took in, and all they want is more, more, more. They don't like the word cut. This would be like turning over your checkbook to your crazy poor uncle who lives in a car somewhere. Why would you do that? It just doesn't make any sense. Nothing personal about your uncle.
Or, your 4-year-old.
Oh, your 4-year-old. Thank you so much.
$5 gazillion to me.
I know. Thank you. That's a good point, Liz. I'm glad you brought that up. We're joined right now by Ted Dabrowski. He's with the Illinois Policy Institute. Ted, how are you?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Hey, you know what? Your Chicago Tribune yesterday came out with an article recommending that Illinois should just be dissolved and let the local states kind of absorb what's left.
Well, what's sad about that is that, it's happening little bit by little bit. You have people moving into Indiana, companies moving to Indiana, others going right across the border to Wisconsin. If we don't change our ways, it's going to happen anyway.
Yeah, well, I mean, slowly people are making that choice. It looks like they've even got a new proposed Midwest with a bigger Indiana and a little bit bigger Iowa and a little bit bigger Wisconsin. It's pretty funny to look at. But on a more serious note, they've called a special session up there, I understand, in Springfield, and for the sole purpose apparently of raising taxes, right?
That's right. They've come together. Rauner, who has been tough against Madigan for a long time, has come out and said that he might support a tax increase. There's a plan out there on the table that has over $5 billion in tax hikes, and it's just the wrong way to go. And we don't need a special session to raise taxes. What we need in Illinois is a special session to balance the budget without tax hikes. For a long time we've run the state into the ground. Our politicians have, and what we need to do is end the craziness and the same thing we've been doing for a long time, which is borrow tax, and we need to fix the way of Illinois, or we're going to dissolve it to other states.
Yeah, well, I mean, I realize that what I read in the Chicago Tribune does not reflect their editorial board because, of course, but they did have a reporter up there named John Cass who seems to kind of get to the bottom of what's going on there with the state of Illinois, that they haven't had a budget for years. They're spending money they don't have. The state's credit rating has dropped, which increased the cost of borrowing more money we don't have to keep the whole thing going. And now the bills have piled up, and now your comptroller's saying there's no way we're going to be able to meet even the payments that are being demanded of us right now.
Well, that's the thing, that there's this narrative that's across the board, and it's nice to hear John Cass take it on, is that there's this narrative that the only way to fix Illinois is through multi-billion-dollar tax hikes. And you've got all kinds of civic groups, the media, of course, lots in the government saying that. But the reality is that Illinois are tapped out, they're taxed out. And we already pay the highest property taxes in the nation. We have the fifth highest overall tax bill. It's not more taxes that we need. It's we need massive reforms in how we do pensions. We have to stop doling out pensions the way we do. We have to change the cost of local government so that we don't keep subsidizing it through the state. And we need things like Medicaid reforms and higher education reforms. There's a lot of fat, a lot of executive pay and multi-million-dollar pensions. And until we change that, they're going to try to keep going to taxpayers who, at some point, will continue to leave, and we'll have an even worse problem in Illinois.
Well, I appreciate the fact that somebody over there is speaking the truth, because we're willing to do it on this show. The only people that can fix this in the state of Illinois is the Democrats in the Democratic Party, because they control Springfield with an iron fist, and they flat refuse to do it.
Well, they've had Democratic majorities in the past before Rauner came in. They had supermajorities. They had a governor. They could have fixed problems all along, and the problem is they never did. They had this huge, massive income tax increase in 2011 for 4 years. It raised $32 billion new dollars, and after all that, they didn't pass a single reform. They just spent all the money. And so now they want round 2 of that, and hopefully Illinois are smart enough to say no way.
Yeah, well, let's hope so anyway. Tell me, Ted, where can people go to find more about the Policy Institute?
At IllinoisPolicy.org and on Facebook. Just one more point is we put out a plan that says you can balance the budget without tax hikes. We went through all the reforms. We lay it out there. There is a path for Illinois to become the great state it should be. We just need to hunker down and oppose these bad ideas and bad tax hikes, and really just get back down to taking care of taxpayers first.
Yeah, that's a great point. A lot of common sense in there. I tell you what, Ted Dabrowski, thanks so much for your time with the Vice President of Policy at the Illinois Policy Institute. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Yeah, I love this. Listen to this. This guy just... Not only did he start off by suggesting that the state of Illinois be dissolved, this reporter for the Chicago Tribune, he's got a great sense of humor. He said that Wisconsin would have to take the upper part of the state, which would be Chicago, but of course Wisconsin wouldn't want to inherit Chicago any more than Rahm Emanuel would want to be inherited because he needs a job. So he thinks that they should just carve out Chicago and call it Ramonia. I think that's brilliant, and then they could then they could pair off other parts of the state that nobody would want, like maybe around Springfield. So if there was another part of the state that nobody else wanted, they'd call it Madaganistan after the House Speaker Madaganistan.
That's pretty.
I like it. You see that? And they're splitting it all up. Missouri's going to get a chunk of it, supposedly. Of course, we'd mostly get southern Illinois, so that's a good thing because there's lots of good conservatives over there who are frustrated as we are. But anyway, it's a good piece. It's in the Chicago Tribune if you want to watch it. Why Illinois should probably just go ahead and be dissolved because there's nowhere to go but bankruptcy at this point when you've got 4-year-olds minding the store.